All right, hey Algebra 1, we are going to go over some fraction operations. I know that we haven't probably seen them for a little while, but when we get into chapter 1, lesson 5 and 6, you're going to see some operations with negative and positive fractions. And if you don't understand how to add and subtract them, then you might have a few problems. So we're going to first start off with adding and subtracting fractions, okay? So when we add and subtract fractions, what do we need? Does anybody remember what you need? You need a common denominator, okay? So common denominator is the number that's on the bottom, okay? The number that's on the bottom has to be the same. So like you have to add things together like, I don't know, 1/4 plus 2/4. You can add things together that have a common denominator by just adding the numerator. So 1 plus 2, that would be 3/4, okay? But the ones that we're going to look at today, they don't have a common denominator. You have to make that common denominator by finding something called the least common multiple. So the least common multiple is the smallest number that both of them can be changed into. So like 3 and 4. 3 and 4 would be changed into 12. 5 and 3 would be changed into 15. 6 and 12 would be 12 because 6 times 2 is 12 and you wouldn't change the 12. 5 and 10 would be 10 because 5 times 2 makes 10. So you have to find that least common multiple for making that denominator be the same. Now, if you're somebody that really struggles with that, you can always just multiply the denominators together and that would make a common multiple, but you'd have to reduce at the end. So whatever your fancy is with those. But here's the kicker. If you don't show your work and you only use your calculator, you will not get points. So you will have to show all your work like I'm going to show on here. So just a forewarning, okay? All right, so we're going to start off with just adding and subtracting some basic fractions here. Let me get open to my page. All right, and we're going to start off a little small. So it's just going to say add or subtract. Oops, I can't spell subtract, I guess. All right, so here's our first one. 3/4 plus 1/2. So this will be the problem. Whatever I show in red is the work that I want to see on your work, okay? All right, so common denominator between 4 and 2 is 4. This one's already a 4, but I know that 2 times 2 makes 4. So I'm going to multiply this by 2. So that will change this to be 3/4 plus 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And 3/4 plus 2/4, 3 plus 2, I just add the numerator, is 5/4. And I am okay with you leaving it as an improper fraction. That's okay with me. If it needs to be reduced, then reduce it, okay? But this does not need to be reduced, so that is your final answer. All right, let's do another one here. Let's do 5/6 plus 7/10. Okay? I have to make a common denominator between 6 and 10. So let's think about it here a second. A common denominator between those two. So I'm going to think about 6's. 6, 12, 18, 24, and then 30. 30, how about 30? 10 times 3 makes 30. 6 times 5 makes 30. So I'm going to multiply this one by 5 and this one by 3. So 5 times 5, that's 25. 5 times 6, that's 30. 7 times 3, that's 21. 10 times 3, that's 30. And now I can go ahead and add my numerators. 25 plus 21, that's 46 over 30. And then I can reduce this, okay? I can reduce it by 2, okay? Because if you look at them, they're both even numbers. 6 ends in 6 and 0. So we can always reduce by 2 if they're even. So I'm going to reduce by 2. So 46 divided by 2, that's 23. And 30 divided by 2, that's 15. So 23/15. Let's do another adding one. Now, this is a mixed number. And I'm okay with you adding mixed numbers, but subtracting them gets a little crazy, especially when you have to borrow. So a trick that works for all mixed numbers, because you're going to have to do it for multiplying and dividing as well, is to make them improper fractions. Change them to be improper fractions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something called check mark. I'm going to drop my book. Check mark. So what that does is it takes the big number times the denominator and adds the numerator to change it to a mixed number. So 5 times 3 is 15, and 15 plus 2 is 17. So that's going to be 17 thirds. 6 times 6 is 36, plus 5 is 41 sixths. Okay? Now you can make it a common denominator. So the common denominator between 3 and 6 is 6. So I'm going to multiply this one by 2. This one's already a 6, so I don't have to. So 2 times 17, that's 34 sixths, plus 41 sixths. And now I can just add the top. So 34 plus 41, that's 75 sixths. And that does not reduce, so that would be my final answer. Okay? So let's do some subtracting now. Let's see. All right. So let's do 5 sixths minus 3 fourths. So let's think about what our common denominator would be between 4 and 6. You can start counting. 4, 8, 12, and then 6, 12. They both have a 12 in common. So I'm going to multiply the 6 by 2. I'm going to multiply the 4 by 3. So 2 times 5, that's 10. 2 times 6, that's 12. 3 times 3, that's 9. 4 times 3, that's 12. And now I can just subtract the numerators. 10 minus 9, that's 1. So 1 12th. Doesn't reduce or anything, so that's it. Let's do 5 6 minus 4 fifths. So we're going to have to find a common denominator for 6 and 5. So you can start thinking, okay, 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, or 6 times 5 is 30. You can do it that way. So I'm going to multiply the 6 by 5 and the 5 by 6. All right, so 5 times 5, that's 25. 5 times 6, that's 30. 4 times 6, that's 24. And 5 times 6, that's 30. Then you can subtract. 25 minus 24, that's 1 over 30. What a coincidence that they were both 1 over something. All right, let's do one that's a mixed number. And I just said that with mixed numbers, it's best for you to change them to improper fractions, okay? So like if I do 3 1/2 minus 1 2/3, okay? Let's change them to improper fractions. So I'm going to do 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7, so that's 7 halves, minus 1 times 3 is 3, plus 2 is 5, so that's 5 thirds. Now, after I make them improper fractions, now we're going to make them have a common denominator. So 2 and 3. 2 and 3 can both be made into 6. So I'm going to multiply this one by 3 and this one by 2. So 3 times 7, that's 21. 3 times 2, that's 6. 5 times 2, that's 10. 3 times 2, that's 6. Now that they have a common denominator, I can just subtract the numerators. So 21 minus 10, that's 11, 6. And if you can reduce it, you should. That one you can't. Okay? All right, we're going to move on to multiplying and dividing. So we're going to multiply or divide. All right. So when I multiply and divide fractions, I do not need a common denominator. Okay? With multiplying and dividing fractions, when you multiply, you just multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. Okay? You don't need a common denominator. All right, so I'm going to pull up some problems here. Let's go ahead and go with 2/5 times 3/7. All right, so you can try to reduce before you multiply, or you can reduce the answer at the end. whatever your preference is. Miss Wilson typically likes to reduce before she multiplies. Now, what I'm going to do to figure that out is I'm going to look at the diagonal, 2 and 7. 2 and 7 have no number in common that I could reduce by. Look at the other diagonal, 5 and 3. 5 and 3 have no numbers that I could reduce by, so that means it's not going to be reducible now. So now I can go ahead and multiply straight across the top. 2 times 3 is 6. Straight across the bottom, 5 times 7 is 35. And then I'll see if I can reduce it, but that one I can't, so it's good. And there's not really any work to show on that one. All right, let's do one where I do have to reduce so that you all can see what that looks like. So let's do like 14 over 9 times 3 over 6. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the diagonal, 14 and 6. 14 and 6, they can be reduced. They both have 2's that they could both be reduced by. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I reduced that diagonal. Look at this diagonal. 9 and 3. 9 and 3 are both reducible by 3. So 9 divided by 3 is 3. And 3 divided by 3 is 1. So I reduced. Now after I reduce, we multiply straight across the top. So 7 times 1 is 7. And straight across the bottom. 3 times 3 is 9. And then I can't reduce that again. All right, let's do a mixed number. Let's see, 2 and 5/8 times 2 and 2/7. All right, so once again, it is best to make them, which when adding and subtracting, it's best to make them improper, but with multiplying and dividing, you have to make mixed numbers be improper. So I'm going to start off by doing 2 times 8 is 16, plus 5 is 21, so 21/8. 2 times 7 is 14, 14 plus 2 is 16, so 16/7. And then you should always try to reduce. So 21 and 7, 21 is a multiple of 7, so I can reduce them both by 7. So 21 divided by 7 is 3, and 7 divided by 7 is 1. 8 and 16. 16 is a multiple of 8. That means they're both reducible by 8. So 8 divided by 8 is 1, and 16 divided by 8 is 2. And then I can multiply straight across the top. 3 times 2, that's 6. 1 times 1, that's 1. And 6 over 1 is just 6. Fancy. Okay, let's do a couple division, and then I'm going to stop us. Because this is review, so hopefully it's bringing it all back to us. All right, so with division, okay, I'm right up here. Division in math with fractions is technically not allowed. So they came up with a replacement for that. To do division, you keep, change, flip. Flip the second and multiply. That's what I was always taught, is to flip the second and multiply. Most people call it keep, change, flip, whatever, okay? So with division, like 3/4 divided by 6/7. Okay, I can't divide fractions, so I'm going to flip the second one. So I'm not changing the first one, but I'm going to flip the second one and change the problem to multiplication. And then after that, it's just like the multiplication problems that we did. 3 and 6, I can reduce that. 3 and 6 both reduce by 3, so 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 7 and 4 don't reduce. So now I'm ready. Multiply straight across the top. 7 times 1 is 7. 4 times 2 is 8. All right, 7/11 divided by 9/8. Okay, when I'm looking at it, it's division. I know I can't divide fractions in math, so I'm going to flip the second fraction and change it to multiplication. Okay, try to reduce. 7 and 9 aren't reducible. 11 and 8 aren't reducible. So I'm ready to just multiply straight across the top. So 7 times 8 is 56, and 11 times 9 is 99. And those don't reduce, so that's it. All right, last one. We're gonna make this one be some mixed numbers here. So let's do 4 1/8 divided by 4 2/5. All right, so let's change them to improper fractions first. So 4 times 8 is 32. 32 plus 1 is 33. Okay, I guess I'll leave that as division for a minute. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 plus 2 is 22. Now that I've changed them to improper fractions, now I'm ready to flip the second and multiply. So that'll become 33/8 times 5/22. All right, I'm going to try to reduce 8 and 5. Nothing reduces those. But what about 33 and 22? 11. 11 reduces them both. So 33 divided by 11 is 3. 22 divided by 11 is 2. And then I multiply straight across the top. 3 times 5 is 15. 8 times 2 is 16. And then that doesn't reduce anymore, so that's it. All right, your assignment today is the worksheet that I attached. If you do not show your work like I showed in red on here, you will not get points. All right, bye.